Let's cross, first of all, to Imad Harb, the Director of Research and Analysis at the Arab Center in Washington, D.C. First of all, your reaction to this news. I guess that you're not surprised. This was inevitable, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on. It is inevitable, but also sorrowful at the same time. This comes in the middle of a total absence of United States policy towards Syria, toward the Arab world. It just appears that our president is just simply shooting from the hip, so to speak. Although he has waited for days, which may have probably blunted the major effect of the strike, whatever they land, because the Syrian regime has moved a lot of units out of harm's way. So we really don't know. I think we have to wait a few hours to see what the damage assessment is like. But it was inevitable. The president wanted to do something. He did something last year. He wanted to do something this time. And at the same time, it's also we also have to remember that he's also trying to hide some domestic things in what he does in overseas. So,
Imad Harb, let me interrupt you just for a moment, because we'll go on to talk about those in just a few moments. I must tell you that we're receiving reports that several explosions have been heard in the Syrian capital, Damascus, and eyewitnesses suggest that smoke has been seen rising from that area. That's from the Reuters news agency. Let me just repeat that several explosions have been heard in the Syrian capital, Damascus, and smoke seen rising from that area. We'll bring you more on that in just a few moments. Imad Harb, let's talk about the timing of this decision, and you were about to talk about what's going on the domestic agenda in Washington.
You know, I hate to really harp like a cynic on this. There is something cynical about this. Obviously, the Assad regime is a criminal regime. It's an autocratic regime. It has killed its people. It didn't only kill people with chemical weapons. Last week, it has killed over 500,000 people with all kinds of weapons. The Syrian regime deserves to be punished, but in the absence of a policy towards Syria, it's a problem. But yet, on the other hand, this really comes as the president is really facing what I think is a very, very serious challenge to his presidency and the legitimacy of his administration, with the investigations into his campaign's conduct with Russia and all those people who are associated with him and his administration. So the president wants a distraction. He does want a distraction, although, unfortunately, it is a distraction that comes within an absence of a policy towards Syria. The United States has really failed the Syrian people, honestly. It's not only Donald Trump, it's also Barack Obama. And this is just simply, we're reaping the results of the last over 7 years of the civil war, where the United States has really left the scene there to Russia and Iran to decide what they want.
The president was very focused in his speech. He said that this was a precision strike on targets associated with Syria's chemical weapons program. There is no suggestion that this is anything other than a precision strike.
This is the thing. This is what happened last year, a little over a year ago. I mean, the Syrian regime will shake this off, and they'll continue to do whatever they want to do. This is a precision strike. It's also a message to Russia that we're only punishing the regime for this attack. We're actually not interfering in your policy towards Syria or your domination of Syria, for that matter. And the same thing, by the way, this message gets to Iran as well. We're punishing the regime for doing this attack, and yet we're going to allow you to keep this criminal in power and not do anything about it. It has cynicism written all over it, and it has domestic politics written all over it, although it is definitely a necessary measure to punish the regime. But empty other gestures, empty fuller policy, I really don't know what this is going to do.
Realistically, what were the American administration's options given the mounting evidence of a chemical strike in Douma?
That's an excellent question. The regime had to be punished. The regime had to be punished over hundreds of attacks, whether chemical or with barrel bombs or with anything. The regime had to be told that, hey, you cannot do this anymore. But remember, I mean, we did the same thing last year, a little over on April 7th of last year. We did the very same thing after another chemical attack on Khan Sheikhoun. And we bombed them with 59 ballistic missiles, and they did it again. Yes, the response is fine, but the problem is in formulating, and this is what is supposed to really happen. The problem is in formulating a comprehensive policy towards the Syrian conflict, a comprehensive policy that assures that there is a political transition from the thuggish regime of Bashar al-Assad. There is a transition into a democratic policy where the Syrian people are heard. I mean, where refugees, there are 7-8 million people, refugees outside of Syria, let alone 7 or 8 internally displaced people. I mean, this is not only a chemical attack, although that is really a very, very unfortunate and very, very criminal act. But the Syrian conflict is much wider than a chemical attack, and that's why the United States should lead the world in finding that solution for the Syrian people. And that solution was started, by the way, in 2012 when the world community and in the presence of Russia and in the presence of the Syrian regime as well, decided that there should be a political transition from the regime of Bashar al-Assad.